So, hello everyone. I'm so happy to be here today with you and very excited because we have a super special guest. Let me introduce you to Rodrigo Gomez Aleman. And he is a cognitive behavioral psychologist specialized in scheme therapy and our personal favorite eco-anxiety expert. So, today we're going to be talking about eco-anxiety, but also all the processes around eco-anxiety, where it comes from, and of course, from an expert perspective, because you know that we always want to bring you top experts so that we talk about things from an expert perspective, based on science, based on facts, based on knowledge, so that you can really learn from this and improve your life. So, Rodrigo, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very happy to be here and very thankful. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. The honor is mine.
Thank you. I think it will be great for all our audience and the members of the Alter Leap community as well, but for everyone who's listening to this, because we know that eco-anxiety is something that we're all suffering or going through. The context is, it's a very complex context as well. And before going to the questions, just, framing it, I would like to say that we know that there's a global warming crisis in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And first, there's a lot of misinformation about it. So some people think it's only about the global warming crisis, but we also know there's a biodiversity loss crisis. So yes, the planet is warming, but we're also losing precious animals and plants and nature. And this is causing a lot of pain, basically, in all of us. And the media, sometimes it doesn't help because it's focusing so much on the doom and on the horrible things that will happen if we don't do anything, or that could happen, or that are happening. And it doesn't focus so much on the things, on the positive things that are also happening. The efforts of amazing people around the world trying to solve this, trying to innovate with cool solutions that are helping overcome this problem, because the media normally sells violence, sells drama, right? And so a lot of people are exposed to this and very worried. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be worried. And I think all these groups of people and influencers that are not willingly influencers, but, like Peter Kalmus, the top scientist from NASA, who's always tweeting about how we are in so much, trouble.
Danger.
Yeah. And I think that's important because they're experts and they know where this is going if we don't act like now. And so these activists and these very, very important. Some people call them alarmists, but actually they're just doing a great job because they're generating and creating awareness and telling us, look, there's a huge problem. We should stop doing this. We should start doing the other thing. So I'm all for them. Extinction Rebellion even. I support those guys fully and I will always will. But when we think about the average person, I think, and we're going to listen to what you have to say, but just as an intro, I think the average person, and also what we have been seeing with our community members and with the people that we work with, the average person doesn't know how to deal with this so easily. The average person is feeling very lost, and maybe they don't want to become a full-time activist overnight because they have to put food on the table, and they want to do something, but they don't know how. But also we know that the average person doesn't respond to a lot of alarm. And I can think of examples like, people who smoke. You can have your pack of cigarettes with a picture of a rat or with a picture of a dying infant, they are hardcore. And you still smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Or a person that needs to maybe lose weight because of health reasons and the doctors have told them because they might be on the verge of, diabetes or something. They won't respond with shame, like, you have to lose weight, otherwise you're going to be so fat and you're going to die of diabetes. Like, that shocks you. And then you kind of petrify and don't act. It's different when you see a different picture and maybe imagine the positive version of what could happen if this was different, or if I could imagine maybe, I don't know, how could be my life without smoking, or how could be my life without disease? And then maybe that might motivate me more than people yelling at me all the time, like, you're gonna die, this is bad, this is bad. And this is because of the media, what we're exposed to. So when we think about eco-anxiety, we know it's amplified maybe by the media, many times with reason to do so, but also we know it's actually a real problem. The Earth is warming, we are losing biodiversity, and that has an effect on all of us. So the question here, and why we wanted to invite you as well, is there are so many theories and so many people saying you should do this, you should do that. We want to hear from an expert what all this is about. And, you know, we've heard you from some of the videos that you've made as well, talking about the psychology of change and eco-anxiety and dealing with it, that there are certain things we can do, certain steps we can do, that maybe feeling fear is not necessarily bad. It's how we face it and how we manage it. So this is really an invitation for you to tell us all about, you know, your expertise regarding eco-anxiety and what we need to do to change, if we need to change. But also, this is an invitation to you to share with the audience a little bit of hope of what we can do in this context. So how does eco-anxiety happen to begin with?
First, thanks for the invitation, as I said. And I love what you just said, Ariana, because, for example, the thing that you said about cigarettes, when you're alarming and you focus on the negative effects or something, like smoking, for example, normally we think that we will boost a reaction or the reaction we want from people by showing them how the doom and the tragedy and the bad things. But as you perfectly said, that usually what we got from that is denial. That's why people, when they can see whatever in the pack of cigarettes and they still keep smoking, because they deny it. It's not happening to me, or I choose not to acknowledge that information, not register. They know that. They know that smoking is bad. They know that many things that we do know that are not exactly good. When you just face the negative things that you were mentioning in media, concerning the climate change and the environmental issues that we have, sometimes we just feel overwhelmed. You know, we cannot deny, because in when we talk about smoking, again, it's something about me. I mean, I am entitled, I have the right to deny and to kill myself silently and slowly if I want, because it's myself, it's my life. And many of them, they say that. Environmentally, and in when we talk about the world, we cannot deny it. We cannot just say it's not happening. Although there are people who says that, says that climate change is not happening, that it's an invention, whatever.
We had our fair share of those. Oh yes,
of course. Yeah, I know. Yes, I know. And many people would think so, and many people, that's a reaction of self-defense. This problem is so big and so alarming that I choose to believe it doesn't exist. That's why sometimes people who says it doesn't exist is so strong in their opinions, because it's a self-defense, because the option is to recognize it and feel fearful and feel in danger.
Like an ostrich, they put the head into the ground and they don't want to know about it, right?
Well, that's a reaction, but an ostrich doesn't attack you. It goes and it puts the head into the ground. But this is... Some of them are like, I know it's happening, but I'm afraid to do something. I'm afraid to recognize it, to accept it. So I attack. That's another reaction.
A lot of people are doing that.
Yes. Yeah. So, but anyway, what you ask is, what can we do about anxiety? I don't want to repeat myself of what I was saying in the videos, but it's true. There's things that we can do about anxiety, and basically, I would like to talk about how our society, our culture reacts to emotions, or our Western culture. Because if you go to Oriental cultures, they are more connected to their emotions. They are more willing to accept their emotions and to deal with them.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do it right, but they are more like that. But here in the Western culture, we tend to just accept and deal with positive emotions. I want you to be happy. I want you to be joyful. I want you to be hopeful. I want you to be satisfied. Yes, I want
The
you there.
positive dictatorship I heard once.
Yeah, it is like that, and it applies to everything.
Yeah.
I don't want people who are not beautiful, who are not slim, who are not young. I only want positive things.
Oh my God.
No,
Yeah.
that's an extreme of the line. Let's say,
Yeah.
the denial of the negative and going to the positive in every aspect of the world. Talking about anxiety, is the first thing we need to know is that anxiety, and now we're talking about eco-anxiety, is a response, an adaptive response. Emotions, every emotion is a survival reaction. If we go to animals, I love to go to animals because they are the basic and they are wonderful. Yeah. So if we go to animals feel fear, they feel angry, they feel sad, they feel happy too, they feel excited. But why do they feel negative emotions? Because they need that to survive. They need fear to protect themselves from a danger.
Okay.
They need anger to react to an attack. They need sadness to lower the energy of the body and go and retreat in their caves and heal.
Okay.
That's why they need emotions, and they don't deny emotions. No. I can't imagine a dog or a lion saying, no, I feel angry, but no, I shouldn't. No, of course not.
Of course not.
Or another lion saying, oh, don't cry, lion. Don't feel angry. And that's our natural reaction as humans.
Yes.
If you start crying, my natural reaction will be, oh, stop crying, please. Or don't feel angry. Don't be angry, please. Why so? Most of the times, and I have to say this, it's a selfish reaction, because when people say, don't cry or don't feel angry, it's not about you. It's about they don't feel comfortable dealing with your crying or your being
emotions.
Angry. Exactly. Okay. It's like, I don't know what to do with your tears. I don't know how to react. So please stop making me nervous and stop crying. This is the underline, the silver lining there.
Yes.
Most of the time. Because we are not taught to deal with emotions. In eco-anxiety, it's the same thing. There are things that are happening, and there are people that are concerned about this. But when we fight or deny things, they don't disappear. They just go bigger, and they get another ways to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah? So when we feel ego-anxious, let's say, and we don't recognize that, yes, we are doing this, we are feeling this, instead of generating a reaction, a positive reaction, because anxiety is also emotion that has a function, to be aware.
Okay.
I mean, anxiety is a response to a danger that is not seen, but is, let's say, foreseen.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I think that this might happen. I think this is possible, and so I feel fearful about it. So anxiety is a reaction, so you can be prepared. You can be careful. You be aware of a danger that might happen. This is the functional, adaptive reaction to anxiety. But if we fight it, deny it, or exaggerate it, then we don't react. We feel paralyzed.
Yes.
We feel panicked, or we deny it, which is almost as bad as being panicked, because you don't do anything.
Yeah.
So first of all, we need to recognize our anxiety and say, well, I am reacting to this because it affects me. One thing that I've discovered about anxiety, and specifically ego anxiety, is that people feel so responsible of the world that much of the anxiety they feel is because they think they cannot do anything. They feel impotent. They feel powerless. They feel there's nothing I can do, which is completely wrong.
I agree.
The thing is that many people I've known with eco-anxiety are very conscious and very aware about what is happening. But they say, okay, if I do this and this and this, that won't make a change. I mean, they would love to be like gods. That, okay, I alone will change climate change.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody can say that. I mean, think about whomever, the biggest leader about climate, he or she alone can do nothing.
Maybe it's a lot about your ego, right? I remember when I was when I was young, actually, I was, I think, 19 years old. And I thought I was going to eradicate poverty.
Oh, yeah, of course. Or
I mean, now I laugh.
save the seals in the Arctic or whatever.
And of course, whenever I saw in the newspaper that, the poverty levels are increasing in Latin America or in Mexico or in whatever region, I felt I was failing. And then, I mean, many years passed by, and now I recognize my ego was just so unmanaged. Because imagine someone thinking they can solve world poverty, and now I just laugh. But so many people feel responsible. And also, I think, if we think about Greta Thunberg, for example, whom I love and super respect.
But not even she alone can do anything.
No, but she says, our house is on fire. And when you think about that, like, imagine your house is on fire. Someone screams at 3:00 in the morning, our house is on fire. I think there would be two kinds of people, right? The ones that go into war mode and are like, you go out, you get the dog, you get the passport, blah, blah, blah. And maybe the other one that just goes like, blank, nothing.
Paralyzed.
And I think a lot of people are either in one of those two buckets right now. And how can we, I love what you're saying about anxiety. How can we understand, okay, it's normal that I feel anxious. And then how can we use it to our advantage in terms of to deal with this anxiety? How can we put it to good use?
Oh, yeah. Well, we have to learn to generate a positive, functional, healthy reaction to anxiety. First, as I said, don't deny it.
Okay.
And then, okay, I'm feeling... Once you have acknowledged you have it, it's easy for you to say, okay, I'm feeling because of what? What is the real danger? As you said at the beginning, and I loved it, media, information, they tend to exaggerate. It's normal. It's normal. I remember my journalist classes in college, and they said, okay, a headline that says, a dog bit a man won't call anybody. It's normal. Dogs bit men. But a man bit a dog?
Yeah.
That will call people attention. What?
Oh, of course.
Okay. So usually good things or daily things won't call for attention.
Yeah.
But bad things, catastrophes, things like that, or misery. It's very, very, very common that we are attracted to others' misery, so we cannot recognize ours. That's why we love when somebody got divorced, somebody got whatever. But, well, I'm just saying things that doesn't have anything to do.
No, it's so interesting. We have to have so many sessions and episodes about so many other subjects as well. We will.
What we're saying is, and we tend to exaggerate.
Yeah.
So once we say, okay, I'm not denying the anxiety. As you said, the example you said, our house is on fire. It's important how she said that. Our house. That means we are a community.
Yes.
It's not my house.
Yeah.
I'm alone to save it. No, our house is in fire. So let's everybody do something.
Exactly.
Some people panicked and they just paralyzed. They didn't do anything because they are fighting their fear or their anxiety. Well, that in that case, that would be fear because the fire is there. But anyway, they are fighting their emotion. They are denying their emotion. So I won't react to something that I'm denying or I'm fighting.
Yeah.
Okay, recognize it. And then this, what I called, and I'm repeating a little bit myself from the videos maybe, but it's very important to have this reality check. What's the reality? Is the information exaggerated? I mean, I'm fear about this situation. What's real here?
Yeah.
And once we objectively define what's the real danger, then almost naturally we will find what we can do about it. And the one thing that is also very helpful and always wonderful is never forget that you're not alone. We are a community. It's our house is in fire. Our house, meaning our earth, our world. And we are many, many people living here. And yes, we might know that many people are not doing anything, but many people are doing things. So you're not alone in this warning, you're not alone in this feeling, and there are a lot of people doing things. Probably the effects are not as spectacular as they say, and probably are not reported by the media, because you see a note this big saying that the tiger species is almost saving from extinction because they have done da la 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 la. That's a real note that I read last week, which is great, but it was this big.
Yeah.
And then there was another this big saying that another species in danger, blah, 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 you know?
Yeah.
So knowing that there are people doing things, that we are not alone, we are a community, it makes you feel a lot better, because part of this anxiety, unhinged and uncontrolled, is not just because of the danger, is the feeling that you can do anything.
Yeah.
And that we are just doomed to disaster.
Exactly. I think that's also the problem. And at the end of the day, I think this is complicated because when you say run a reality check, the reality check is pretty dire. I mean, it is true that the house is on fire. The thing is, there are so many other good things happening as well. Like while the house is on fire, there's someone seeing how to bring water to the roof so that it stops burning. And there's someone else, getting people out or getting a new insulation system or already thinking how to avoid the next fire. So I think that what you were saying about the tiger is also true. But I think a lot of people are just in shock about all the things that we need to change. The house is on fire because, and here's the thing as well, I think, because humanity has been doing things in a way that has been hurting our planet and therefore ourselves. Yeah. And suddenly you are being accused individually and collectively of having a lifestyle that's really, really hurtful for everyone. So all of a sudden, it's not just one thing that could be manageable, but it's so many. Like, you shouldn't eat meat ever again. And you shouldn't travel ever again, like at least, flying. And you shouldn't buy fast fashion, which is the affordable fashion. And you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that and you shouldn't buy things you don't need. And so there's so much shame around that as well.
Shame and must-dos.
And must-dos and guilt. And I was talking to a friend and she's a mother of 3 girls. And she was saying, I feel ashamed and guilty because every time there's a birthday party from school, my daughters need to bring a gift. And you need to wrap it nicely because otherwise the other moms will frown at you like, oh, she didn't bring a gift, or she brought a shitty gift, or the gift is not nicely wrapped. And then they will start treating maybe my daughters badly, or they won't get invited anymore. So I feel guilty, first, that I'm buying things that nobody needs, because that girl I know has a lot of toys, like many, many girls who are very privileged. and boys, of course, but I mean, in this example, and then I feel guilty that I'm wrapping it, and then I have to buy it, and then they have to bring it, and there's so much shame. So, how to deal with that? Because you were saying, and just for everyone, when we talk about the videos that Rodrigo has been mentioning as well, because Rodrigo has recorded some videos about the psychology of change and eco-anxiety for our community, and those videos we were talking about. But in one of those videos, you were talking about the psychology of change and how we need to choose maybe one habit, or change one habit first. The thing is, we need to stop or reduce our consumption of meat. We need to reduce or stop flying. We need to so many. How do you decide where to begin, or how to make a plan of, okay, I'm anxious, like you were saying, identify that, acknowledge that, reality check, accept it. Okay, I am anxious. Reality check. Okay, I'm anxious because I think the world is ending. And now I can do a reality check and say, okay, it's not actually ending. It could be horrible for a lot of people, for a lot of regions, but it's not like next month it's game over. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of, adaptation policies and ideas and innovations going on as well. It would be nice to prevent it, but if something bad happens, there's a lot of other groups of people who are already thinking about how we are going to adapt to that. So, okay, I start lowering maybe that anxiety, right? But just by thinking, how real is this, or what reality check? And then how do I go about it? Like, what next? Okay, I know the reality check is it's not as horrible as I thought it would be in terms of we're all dying next year. How do I go about it without feeling so ashamed, so guilty? How do I start changing myself or doing things differently to protect myself, but also to affect change? And also, and I think it's very important, how do I open myself to consider things that are uncomfortable? To consider things like, if I love, for instance, if I was a person that loved meat, beef, every day I need my steak, imagine an example. And now I have to confront a reality that's telling me you should lower the consumption, or you should maybe even stop eating meat. If I'm someone who loves fashion, and I might be even an influencer, dressing up and stuff like that, and now they say you cannot buy fast fashion because it's, fucking up our planet, basically, in French for everyone. And this is a safe space. That's shocking. And then maybe, people who have built a business in a way, and now they have to consider intersectionalism, understanding how they have been maybe damaging the planet through their operations, but also the way they have been treating women in the company. So all these new things that are connecting and that we need to consider. And also thinking about our mental health and mindset. So many people have a stigma about going to therapy or looking inside themselves and fixing themselves. Yeah. And this crisis is telling us, you guys need to do and think and relearn and reimagine everything differently. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
How do you go about it? So we already did a reality check. What's next?
Okay. The thing is, here there are two things. First, our own demands. We usually are hyper over demanding with also ourselves. It's our culture. I know you have to be perfect. Mistakes are not allowed. Blah blah blah. Yeah. So this is one thing that I would love to focus on, because yes, we are anxious. Yeah, we are. As you said, we acknowledge. We know what's the problem, but then we ask ourselves to do a lot. I mean, It's like, okay, the world is ending. Probably it's not ending, as you said, reality check, but there are problems with the water, with some biodiversity issues, blah, 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 blah. When you consider all that and you said, okay, I have to do something for all of that, you feel overwhelmed, you feel powerless, you feel completely tiny, and then anxiety comes up. So one thing is stop demanding yourself a lot.
Okay.
You're not a superhero. You're just human.
Yeah.
You are just human. This is one thing first. So, and choose one. Choose one thing. This is not only in eco-anxiety. If whomever who said, I want to change habits, well, choose one.
Yeah.
Because if you just face, okay, I have to change, as you said, my whole lifestyle, it's a lot. And it's very likely you won't do it.
So when you say choose one, in the past example I gave, so instead of thinking, how do I reduce my meat consumption? How do I stop buying fast fashion? And how do I blah, 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 blah? I mean, I can choose to be more aware of all the things that I do in my everyday, in my lifestyle. But I should choose one specific thing to focus my energy on, especially like maybe my cause is really with the animals and with the agricultural damage and deforestation, blah, blah. So I will try to be more aware when I buy clothes and if I have to travel, blah, blah. But my main focus, the one thing I choose will be fully the vegetarian campaign or joining a community of people who are there.
You got it.
So choosing one specific thing.
Exactly. Okay. Choose one, and one thing that is very, very important. Most of the times when we choose one habit, that will affect many others. Not all of them, but many others.
Like the water drop effect.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
So I'm focusing this habit, but changing this and modifying this will probably affect others.
Okay. And trusting that process.
Trusting that it's natural, organic first.
I like that. It makes sense.
Then the task, I mean, you said, okay, I want to help animals. That looks like a huge task. Yeah. So breaking out tasks into smaller and easier little tasks helps a lot. Okay. It's like, oh, I want to help animals. What can I do? I mean, it's not even defined. Okay, but stop buying. Contributing to a refugee of animals.
Yeah.
Little tasks that you can say, oh, they are more manageable. They are more approachable. They are easier. And then you can even have a timeline or have a plan. Okay, first I will do this. First I will do that. First I will do that. This is hard. I cannot. But anyway, when you're breaking it out in small tasks or actions, it's much easier to just go and do it.
And to see progress as well.
And to see progress. Because, okay, I don't know if I'm saving animals, but I'm helping this refugee and you feel better.
I love that. Oh, I should have heard this 20 years ago. No, yeah, because of course, if you go out and say, I'm going to stop people eating meat because it's bad for the environment, it's it's supporting deforestation and it's bad for everyone and global warming, blah, blah, blah. So I will stop the meat industry. That's a huge thing to do.
It is a huge thing.
I'm not saying, bravo for those who are trying, but it's a huge thing. And progress will be so frustrating. And if like you're saying, if instead I can say, I will do vegetarian Mondays and I will try for my university, if I'm a student, to adopt vegetarian Mondays or my company or whatever. And I will donate to this animal refuge or sanctuary or whatever. And I'm going to, I don't know, maybe post some delicious recipes so people get inspired to eat vegetarian as well.
For instance,
those 3 things I can check.
Okay.
Progress.
And you feel that you're doing something.
Yeah.
Instead of, oh no, I won't save the seals. No, you won't.
Yeah.
But you're doing something here.
Yes.
This is one thing. And the second thing that I want to address from what you were saying is that it's very good to change a little bit the narrative. Because in these things about how bad is the danger and the problem, and then everything that we should do, it's always... it always seemed mandatory, a law, an imposition. Yeah. You shouldn't do that. You have to stop that. You should do that. You must do that. And nobody, it's human, reacts good to that. When we want to change something, when we feel that it's an imposition, naturally we rebel.
Yeah.
Naturally.
Yes.
Unless we understand the benefit and we accept it. It happens with laws. We see laws and we naturally, even the most civilized countries, let alone our countries, but most civilized countries, they react against the laws. Nobody wants to be limited or
Restricted.
restricted.
Yes, of course.
But if you understand that this rule or this action is beneficious, and not only for me, but for the community, you start to feel it differently.
I might give it a try. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and this gives me like the occasion to talk about something about our countries.
Yes.
We are, or at least Mexico. Let's call about Mexico. We are. I don't want to talk about other countries, and we are not so aware of the power of community as they are in the States or in Europe. So when we talk about climate change, it's very common to say, well, what I can do doesn't make the difference. And the difficult here is also because we don't feel the effect on the community because we don't have the sense of community at all. And we also don't care about a community. And we feel that we are alone. If you see Americans or Europeans mostly, they know that, okay, I'm doing this and this is helping my community and there are other people and we are adding up efforts all the time. In our culture, community is not as strong. I mean, it is strong when there's a catastrophe or something.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, culturally, we are not that aware or used to think as a community. And we should start. Then I would use, we should start to think about that because it helps feeling like that when you are doing something in your house, like adopting dogs, and you know that it's not an isolated action. There is a community doing things.
That's so interesting because, I mean, there's a lot of community issues, I would say. There are a lot of community issues all around the world. But what you were saying about how in cultures, maybe in Latin America, in this case in Mexico, as we were discussing, but in many other places too. But regarding Mexico, I remember the earthquake in 2017, where some buildings collapsed in Mexico City and surrounding areas, and of course in the south of the country as well. And it was amazing to see how people responded.
Amazing.
I remember waking up that morning very, very early after working that night as well, helping, military and neighbors in the Condesa neighborhood, digging people out of two collapsed buildings. We brought some machine, a group of friends and then we went to Xochimilco to do the same. And the woman who sells tamales in the corner of where I used to live, I told her, I want to buy, I don't know how many. I think I said 20 or 30 tamales to bring to the volunteers. And she asked me, where are you going? I'm going to Condesa. We're still digging people out. And she just closed the whole pot. It's, these huge pots where they have the tamales when they sell them
delicious.
Every morning all around Mexico City. And she closed the pot, which is, of course, her income. And she said, you take this to the volunteers. This is my help to them.
Oh, my God.
And I was like, oh, my God. And then when we were in Xochimilco, we went to a local kitchen, Cocina Económica, like a small restaurant, family-run restaurant for people to go and buy food. And the owner of that one also said, oh, you're working with the volunteers? And he told his sons and daughters who work there as well with him, close the place. And they put everything they had on the pots on bags and gave it to us for free. And I insisted, like, no, let me pay. And we went to Home Depot to buy a machine and it was all gone. Like, people went and bought every single tool to go out and help. And we just kept thinking, man, if we were like that every day,
Exactly.
we would be like the world, biggest power.
Of course.
And we are in a crisis. The global warming crisis
But it's not that present.
It's not that present. We didn't feel the earth shaking.
Exactly.
But how do we tap into the power of that collective solidarity? And you know what? I'm going to say something very risky. And I'm not trying to offend anyone. And I'm not saying that it was good that there was an earthquake, because that would be the most stupid thing to say ever. And people died, and it was horrible. And I hope it never happens again.
Mm-hmm.
But what I want to say, and I really hope no one takes this the wrong way, is that in that community, in that solidarity, in that teamwork, we even experienced, may I say, joy and pleasure, not in terms of what happened, it was a tragedy, but in terms of realizing our potential.
That's exactly what happens. You feel powerful.
Yes.
You feel influential.
And that was so motivating.
That's when you feel that the rock that you moved, even you moved one rock.
Yes.
But there were hundreds of people moving one rock, made a difference. And you feel
Absolutely.
important, powerful.
Yes.
With the power of community.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is that, as you said, it doesn't go on through daily things because it's not that present. Just imagine the earth like, whining.
Yeah.
That you could listen to the earth whining every morning.
Yeah.
And imagine if we all humans wake up every morning and we hear
Earth
crying.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Now I want to cry.
We would react.
Yeah.
But we don't.
And she is crying.
She is, but silently.
Silently. She shows it. She shows this pain in the way her animal species are going extinct every day, or rivers are being polluted, or fires are being burned. We forgot about it because of COVID. But right before COVID, we saw images of the wildfires in Australia.
Yeah.
And the images of those koalas and kangaroos and the spiders. I love all animals, but I'm sometimes a bit afraid of spiders. And you saw these huge fields full of spiders, running for their lives. And you felt so bad for every single insect there. Even the spiders. Yeah. And it was shocking. And it got a lot of people depressed and eco-anxious. I think that's where it really kickstarted this eco-anxiety pandemic.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say how do we amplify this feeling of the earth, asking for help or suffering, but how do we switch that on inside of us that was switched on during the earthquake? I don't know. How do we give that extra step so that we start working more in community, reaching out for the community to do something about this?
Yeah. Well, the thing is that probably during the earthquake, I was there too. Yeah. I mean, I was living in this city, and I was living in 1985, which
I know
another earthquake. So it was exactly the same thing. And what I think is that the difference there is that there were a lot of things that that you could do, and you saw the people doing things. So it's like the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
I mean, you see everybody doing things, and sometimes you feel even bad if you weren't doing anything.
Yes.
So, and the most important thing is that you knew that there was something that you can contribute. One of the things that prevent us from helping in these climate issues, I think, is the feeling of being powerless and insignificant. It
Absolutely.
means,
yeah.
So what's the point of doing anything? I feel so powerless because I'm being. I've been doing this effort for a year or for whatever. I changed this in my life, and I don't see a change. First, what change were you aiming to be? Probably it was too high.
That's a reality check missing.
Exactly.
We should do that first.
If I'm showering, I'm taking a shower in less time every morning, but I want to see that because of that, the glacier in Alaska, it won't happen.
Yes.
No, and you will feel very frustrated. So first of all, this feeling of irrelevance and powerless, this is what is prevent us. And also this exaggeration. I am convinced that most people that are not doing anything, it's not because they don't want to or they are selfish. It's because they cannot bear the feeling of being powerless.
Oh, yeah.
And it's much more easier to deny, to ignore, to apart from us, things that are making us feel tiny and powerless.
Absolutely. No. So I think the challenge would be, I mean, I love the reality check thing and breaking it into smaller goals and choosing one thing to focus on. I mean, yes, you can choose to be more aware in general, but then choose that one thing that you're going to focus on.
And sorry for the interruption.
Yes,
one
please.
thing that you asked me and I didn't answer. How can we motivate us?
Yeah.
With finding what isn't it for us? Why changing this or doing this will be good first for me. And not, it sounds selfish, but it is not, because probably the satisfaction for me would be seeing the change in others.
Yes.
And that is not selfish. But we need to find a motivation, because if it's an imposition, it won't work. If we feel it like an imposition, it won't work.
Absolutely. And that was actually the question I had to close with. And how do we, and again, just as a sensitive subject as when I was saying about how we found somehow joy in the midst of disaster and tragedy in the 2017 earthquake. And I mean joy in that community, in that feeling of potential and being able to really make a difference and that sort of thing. How can we find, this might sound absolutely insane, I'm sorry, but please bear with me. How can we find either pleasure or belonging or even a sense of power and success in this context? Because you were mentioning, when you were talking about the psychology of change, how motivation never will come from anger or urgency or imposition, but or it could, there are people who, I don't know, super narcissists, like, a lot of presidents that we know all around the world, they were told no. And because they were so pissed off about that, they became presidents and then, screw everyone in the process and afterwards. But in general, for normal people, I would say, average people, it would be so cool to find a way in which, in the middle of all the drama and all the suffering that's going on and this eco-anxiety, we could find a way to find somehow, if not pleasure, at least joy and belonging and a sense of power with little things that we are accomplishing. And so you say community is important, but what else? What else could we, how else could we maybe frame it so that we feel willing to give that extra step to go out and do something?
Well, you mentioned motivators, and those are very important. Community appeals to one of them. We as humans here, any human, any country, any condition, any human is very motivated to feel belonging. We need to belong. We are not isolated beings. We are social beings, so we need to belong. And not only because of safety reasons, but because we need to connect, we need to feel accepted, we need to be recognized, we need to share feelings, we need to connect. So if we approach to communities that are feeling the same anxiety or need to help or will to help, that'll be a reward strong enough for us to keep on doing it, Okay. And you also mentioned the other ones. I mean, like power. And power, I don't mean political power as the president, as you were mentioning, is the power of change. I can do things, I can help make the difference. So I feel not powerless. I feel that doing this, I know I'm influencing and affecting this community. Maybe not the world, not the Arctic, not Alaska, not the Amazonia, but this community. I know I'm making this little change, but I'm making it. That is also a motivator. That is also something that we can say that is in it for me.
Yes.
The feeling of being powerful, influential, the feeling of being heard or exert some influence on others. This is for me. This is my motivator to change this or adopt, another behavior. Success another.
Yeah. And maybe you can grow it from there.
Of course.
Maybe my motivator is that my family is doing well throughout this crisis.
Uh-huh.
But then I start doing small things that I see have a good impact, a positive impact. And then I can extend that maybe as a next step to my neighbors as well. And then to my street. And then to my whole neighborhood. And but it's just step by step.
Exactly.
I love the breaking down thing that you're proposing as well, because that makes it all much more manageable.
It is.
And even books about, how to change habits or how to be more productive or whatever. There are so many of those. But I think in some of the best ones, at least from my perspective, have that in common, like breaking activities and goals into smaller steps. So these ones shouldn't be different.
No.
Such a huge crisis.
You talk about books. They are broken out in chapters.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it is easier to read them. Imagine a book, and I know one book like that doesn't have any chapter. It's just from the beginning.
You don't even know where you're at.
Exactly.
How many pages.
Exactly. So you see it, and it's overwhelming to read it.
It's overwhelming.
Like, my God, it's a lot.
Yeah, I love that. I think breaking down a big task, and no bigger task than the global warming crisis and biodiversity loss crisis, breaking it down is one key thing that we should all try to do for our own benefit, for our own peace of mind, to lower our eco-anxiety, to help our loved ones lower their eco-anxiety as well. And the first one you said was the reality check as well. Well, first was acknowledging your eco-anxiety. Don't fight it. Accept it. Understand it. And then
knowing that you're feeling it so you can be prepared and be cautious.
Exactly.
That's the function of what you're feeling.
Being grateful. Thank you, body, that you're
That's
making
an alarm
me feel
thing in your body. Yeah.
Exactly. And then a reality check. And now that you said being thankful about it, I think the reality check would be two parts. First one, really, really assessing the problem and the crisis from a practical and real perspective, without the whole drama from the media. We know it's dire. I'm not denying that, but just how it will, develop and how it will affect me and my loved ones and my community and my country and our planet, because it's our home at the end of the day. But from a reality check perspective, from a practical perspective, based on data, not on drama.
There you go.
And when I say drama, I don't mean activists. For me, they are not drama queens. I mean the media, how they amplify it, how they lead with fear because it sells. So a reality check there. And the other component would be, because you were saying, being thankful with your anxiety because it's an alarm. It's telling you something's happening. Prepare. Gratitude as well. Because that's another phase maybe of a reality check. Like, okay, I'm worried about all of this, but what am I grateful for as well? Oh, I have a job. Oh, I have a roof over my head. Oh, I have someone who loves me, a family member or a partner or a friend or whatever. Oh, I have food. Oh, and I have also time to spend with friends. I'm already doing so well. So all those things maybe part of the reality check. And also I wanted to say, when it comes to the reality check, it's also very important to understand really the root of the problem, because there's so much misinformation. So social media plays a role in amplifying fear, but also it plays a role in misinforming. And there are so many influencers and people who are talking about sustainability and decarbonization and nature positivity, biodiversity and blah, blah, who are not experts, And they have a cool role to play, and they're playing it. And that's great. I'm not attacking anyone. Everyone has a voice, and we should all use it. That's great. But sometimes people are confused when we think about a reality check, because our house is on fire. And then you go to Instagram and you see some influencers saying something about how you should do a compost or stop using a plastic straw. And you're like, okay, so if I use a plastic straw, if I stop using a plastic straw, I will stop our house being on fire? Is it really that impactful? Or should I do a compost? Or some others are saying, actually, the carbon footprint was an invention from the fossil fuel industries, which is true, by the way. But the thing is, so because it's their fault, then it's not my problem. Then I shouldn't do it. So there's a lot of misinformation. And on that point specifically, I would really ask and invite you all to listen to our first podcast from this our first episode from this podcast, where we are breaking down the global warming crisis and the biodiversity loss crisis, explaining really what the problem is, the root of the problem, what we expect to do as humanity by 2030 and then by 2050, and what governments, private sector, the media, and civil society could do. And of course, we are part of civil society. You might as well be part of, government or the private sector, or you might work in media. So, listen up. But as citizens, what we can do, and also understanding what we can do is also different. For instance, I can donate to an animal sanctuary. And then I will see almost immediate impact, because that day, all those animals might have, veterinary care and more food, just to say an example. But I cannot change the government. But I can vote. I can prepare and inform myself.
Yeah.
So I vote for governments that are for the environment, for planet Earth as well. I cannot change how a restaurant decides to, develop or create their menu or what to sell. But I can use my voice to say, hey, I don't like it that you are offering, shark fin soup, because, that's really not cool. Sharks are dying. They're super important for the ecosystem. It's horrible and you shouldn't do it. And if you don't stop it, then I'm going to use my voice, maybe use social media in a good way and amplify the message and tell my friends. And if you're an influencer or something like that, your followers, to not go to a certain restaurant because they're offering shark fin soup. So I might not change the whole hospitality system, but I can use my voice to start spreading a message that could be helpful. So there will be different levels of change that we can affect, but making this reality check help us understand all the things that we could do, and also understand all the impact that we could have in all of those. More here, less there, and give us a sense of control.
Yeah.
Is that also important?
It is.
Having that sense of control.
It is, that you're doing something, of course.
And community,
And
the
community,
last one.
Yes.
Wow. So just to a final recap, acknowledge that you have anxiety, accept it, and be thankful.
Be thankful for it, yeah.
Okay. Reality check.
Reality check. Objective reality check.
Objective reality check. Listen to our first episode from this podcast for a reality check breakdown of the climate crisis and the biodiversity loss crisis. And the fourth one would be breaking it down into tasks that you can really, really do. That's wow. Yeah. And the fifth one was community, reaching out. You're not alone. There's a lot of people feeling the same way. There are a lot of people doing the one thing that you chose. Oh, that was the other one, right? And in breaking it down, but after choosing the one thing you want to focus on.
Yes.
And on that one thing that you focus, there will be a community behind, or many.
Yeah.
So you can also join them. Wow. I do feel less eco-anxious after this conversation. No, it's true. It's true. Because sometimes we tend to lead with our ego or lead with our fear, and then we see it's so big. The problem, whatever problem, is so big. And now, I already have ideas of how I could break it down for myself, some communities I definitely want to join. I'm already part of some of those. We ourselves have a community, the Alter Lib community. And it's precisely a space for people to, to be there and to share and to address mindset issues that we all have regarding this, but also skill sets that we need. So not thinking that you are anyone who could impact our planet or be part of a solution. That's a mindset issue, right? We're interested in people trusting themselves to be the change. But you cannot affect change if you're not well first, if you don't think you're able to affect that change and trust yourself to be that. And also community, that's why we exist. And we are what we call a shameless community, because we saw there was so much shame also, people saying, I'm so ashamed because I love animals, but I'm not a vegetarian. And we did a lot of interviews previously, and women were crying about this. A lot of women we interviewed, and especially women, were feeling a big burden about this, and shame about, like, the example of the mom taking, buying gifts for birthdays, for school, and the person buying fast fashion, or the person flying and crying like, oh, my children haven't seen their grandparents for 4 years, but I don't want to fly because we're contributing to global warming, so they will not see them. And my dad is sick, but we need to catch a flight and I don't want to. And then crying, because if I did, I would be responsible for this climate crisis. And I'm not saying that we should all fly. I'm just saying the shame that's there. And all I loved what you were saying, all the shoulds and must and
that's
stop.
why.
And this is a community where we're all going to be imperfect together. We're focused on progress, imperfect progress. We're going to mess up. We're going to fuck up because we are humans, but we're going to do it together, supporting each other and finding that joy that we were mentioning during the collective efforts, when the earthquake hit, finding that joy of knowing we are together on this, and we already can see what we can do, and we're working towards that.
This is very important what you're saying, and about guilt. This sense of community and will help a lot of that, because when you say we are not perfect, no, we are not. We are not powerful, almighty. We are not, but we are complementary.
Yeah.
Then, if you cannot stop eating meat, that's right. But what can you do? Yeah. Oh, maybe I can save water. That's good. That's your part. My part is stop eating meat.
Yeah.
His part is stop flying. That part is contributing to animals.
Yeah.
We are complementary.
I love that. And we want... or it seems that the media and we ourselves, we want everyone, including ourselves, to be everything when it comes to the solution. And we cannot. We cannot make the introvert be an extrovert and start spreading the message. No. We cannot make the extrovert be the data guy sitting behind a desk with numbers when he's the perfect person to be spreading the message.
Exactly.
So everyone will find a role. We need to find our own.
Exactly. On your example, the house is on fire. We need the firemen. Every fireman in the truck has a function, a different function.
It's true. Yeah, they don't just go out like
everybody holding
with the
hood.
hose. No. One has to rescue people. The other, I don't know, animals. The other, make sure that there's no flammable.
Only the driver, which is essential too.
The driver, yeah. Wow. So, which person are you from the fire truck? What role do you play? Right? Those are questions we should ask ourselves as well.
Exactly.
Oh my God. Rodrigo, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. I do feel really less anxious. I hope everyone does. And I'm sure they are. The 5 steps that we discussed today are something we can all start doing today. And we can even, discuss this with our loved ones, with our family, with our coworkers, and get this conversation going. We can take care of each other as well, and ourselves first. Knowing there are 5 things, at least 5 things we can start doing. And I love that. And I'm so grateful to have you here. I know we will have you again to discuss more about this, but also about other topics.
It'll be my pleasure.
And please don't forget to follow us on social media, join our Alter Leap community, but most of all, put this advice to action. It will be really good for you and for your loved ones and for our planet. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here.
Thank you,
You're the
Ariana.
best.
It was an honor, a pleasure. Really.
No, you're the best. And well, keep it up. We're getting there and we're going to make it. We will make it.
We
Thank
will.
you. Bye.